Simple questions for 100 people. Welcome to our experiment, the 100-person project. I'm Bill Carell, and this is my investigation. This research project is to gather data from 100 beautiful human beings with the sole purpose to see what actually happens across the interviews. The questions are fixed, and all the interviews will remain consistent, with the variable being the actual participants themselves, well, and your answers. It's as if I'm having you, Kate, come sit on my porch to share your thoughts so that I can learn about people. We're looking forward to what we're going to learn when we're complete. Very interested in the people, the process, and the particular story. You will get to know our guests through the interview, so let's dive in. It's my distinct pleasure to have all of us involved in this podcast, all the friends in the world. And let me introduce my guest. Well, how about you do it for me, Kate?
You want me to introduce myself? All right.
What is your full name?
Kate Mollison.
No middle name?
I generally don't give it out because it's not my favorite thing in the world. So only very select people get to know what my middle name is.
Well, no one's going to hear this. It's just between you and me. It's only a podcast.
My middle name is actually my mother's maiden name because she apparently didn't like me very much and wanted to give the children something to pick on me about. So my middle name is Rondo, the French Rondeau.
That's a beautiful name.
Not when you're a small child in elementary school and your first name isn't legally Kate, and so you get picked on for having two first names and two last names. I sound like a failed country singer. So
it looks to me like you turned out okay.
I play a good one on TV.
Rondo sounds like it's some kind of an action thriller spy movie sort of thing, right? Like maybe somebody like Sly Stallone has to be playing the lead.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now that we know your least favorite name, what would you say your favorite nickname is that most people don't know?
Ooh, so I don't really have a lot of nicknames. But one comes to mind was my dad. He always calls me Peaches because when I was a baby, it's literally the only thing I would eat. So even to this day, as a 35-year-old woman, he still goes, "Hey, Peaches," and I'm just like, "Oh, hey, Dad." Like, it's our little thing. So
that's marvelous. That is really, really special. That you might be the first person that I've ever known that was called Peaches, as a nickname. So now
I actually know someone with Peaches as their legal first name. So
I do too. Yeah. Her Peaches Abercrombie.
Ooh, I know Peaches Finch.
Finch, okay. Those are different. Abercrombie and Fitch were close. Finch.
Close, I know. I was going to say, that's why I said it. I was like, oh, that's weird.
Exactly. So on to the next question. Peaches, when did you first notice what color hair you had? And I won't do that again, unless you want me to.
Ooh, so I am painfully aware of my natural hair color because I am naturally a redhead, even more red than this, like a deep chestnut auburn type of red. And I got picked on a lot as a little kid for being a redhead. So probably like kindergarten, first grade is when I really had that like astute awareness of the importance of hair color and my specific hair color.
Wow. That is pretty neat. And so how did you wear your hair when you were a kid?
I wasn't allowed to cut my hair, like at all. So I didn't cut it for the first time until after I was 18. So my hair was either, pigtails or ponytails or bangs or all that good stuff. But my mom let me start dyeing my hair in the 5th grade. So I would dye my hair dark brown so I wouldn't have to be a redhead anymore.
That's amazing. So I dated a redhead in high school, Barbara, and she
sorry.
Well, no, it was okay. I'll tell you what, it was good for
redheads.
me.
We spicy.
She said redheads, we're the master race.
Yep. Yeah, we're soulless apparently. But there is a redhead convention that happens every year in Scotland.
Oh yeah, there's something about the all the gingers in the world get together.
Yep.
I would love that. So, enough about hair for a moment. We may come back to it later on. We might not. You don't. What is the favorite thing for you to do to intentionally waste time?
Oof. I'm a big visual learner, so like I spend a lot of time on Pinterest or on TikTok. Usually it's like self-education or like I'm a fashion nerd and a history nerd, so I'll look at like fashion throughout the ages and different videos and stuff like that. So I'm a big interweb scroller.
So maybe if I wanted to learn more about Pinterest, you could put me through a seminar.
Absolutely, I could.
To me, it just occurs like a whole bunch of unrelated pictures that are all kind of like a collage.
But it's an algorithm. So the more you use it or the more things you search or the more niche you get, the more curated your feed will become, similar to TikTok.
What you look at, you get more of, huh? Okay, I like
Correct.
that. Those algorithms are my friend. I'm in
They're
the
not,
business.
because they tell me things I don't want to know. And then I'm like, I feel attacked. Like, I didn't need the cheesecake recipe. Thank you.
Well, Timu uses that same sort of a thing. I don't know if you've gone on there, but if you happen to look at something, you'll now see 25 of those and be getting texts and emails and that's the age we're living in, algorithms. So Pinterest, thank you. You just connected the dots for me.
I love
Um,
it.
so in addition to that, and what makes it time wasting for you? Is it something where you really can just lose yourself, or do you get anything in particular out of it?
Well, TikTok really is a time sucker. Like, I lose time when I'm on TikTok. I think I'm on it for maybe 10 minutes and I look at the clock. I'm like, 3 hours. Like, but Pinterest is because I'll end up down rabbit holes and on tangents. And, I'll start by looking for something or researching something or interested in something. And then I'll, you know, dovetail off into other things. And then I'm like, oh God, I gotta go. Like, so it just becomes like a time warp.
Yeah, it sounds like once you discover how long you've actually been on, there's like a maybe a little bit of happiness slash embarrassment slash oh what the hell.
Yeah, it's more of a like, oops, I was supposed to do other things. Oh well, at least I'm happy. Like,
And
but I
that's the
had to
main.
literally uninstall TikTok from my phone because I was finding like bedtime. I would go and I would be like, oh, I'll just scroll for like 10 minutes. And then it's like 1 a.m. and I have to be up at 5. And I'm like, nope, uninstall. So I had to uninstall it.
TikTok at bedtime can be a bad idea. Yeah.
Hmm.
So moving on, what is your favorite movie to watch alone, Kate?
Ooh, it's kind of situational for me. Like for me, movies and music are meant to evoke emotions. So if I'm looking to have a good cry, I have a movie that I like. If I'm looking to have a good laugh, there's a movie that I like. There are some movies that I just have personal resonance with, and I don't share with anybody, so I'll watch those alone. Like, so it's kind of a hard question to answer. But I think right now, my favorite movie to watch alone, and everyone's going to laugh at me for this, it's Doom that has Dwayne The Rock Johnson in it. It is
Oh yeah,
literally one of my favorite movies. I could watch it on loop in perpetuity. It is so bad, it's good. It's so good, it's bad. But
I think that's what they were going for.
the point of view scene when they do the first person shooter, because I played that PC game, it was like, touched my heart.
I love it. So now we know that there's a menu, but at the top is going to be The Rock.
Always, that's my boyfriend. Like, I even tell my boyfriend, I'm like, listen, he's my hall pass. So sorry.
I have a dear friend who says that she has a handwritten pass that if she ever is in a situation with The Rock, her husband has said, "No worries,
Okay.
get her
Yep. It's
done."
like if he knocks on the door, it's like, I'll see you in 3 days.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
Vegas. What happens with the rock stays with the rock.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, any which way but lose, right? I love it. So now this is the one I'm very interested in. Having spent a little bit of time with you so far, you were to have an action figure made of you, what superpower would it have, and what colors would its uniform be?
Ooh, well, my favorite color is purple, so I'm gonna go with like multiple shades of just the color purple. I imagine it looking very like Elastigirl from The Incredibles, but with a cape and purple. And I think that I would be a mind reader if I had a superpower.
Now, what
Don't know
would
that
you
an
do with
action figure
that?
can have a superpower, but what would I do with that? Just cure my never-ending anxiety around not knowing how people are feeling. Hashtag trauma response.
There's nothing wrong with a curious mind. Okay, you just want to really pat yourself on the back for that. You at least you're inquisitive, right?
Yeah, I just want to understand people and get to know them. And sometimes people aren't able to share or be open, and to take that pressure off of them and still be able to connect with them in the best way for them is really the
Right.
philosophy I operate under.
So it sounds like it would be more for a personal connection to better understand and be more related to and that sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
You're not out to go for world peace or anything of that nature yet. You're going to start locally and then you'll think globally.
Well, I think if we can all connect to each other a little bit better and a little bit easier, wouldn't world peace just kind of become inevitable?
Amen. It's a natural progression, isn't it? The whole start treating people the way you'd like to be treated, and don't forget that. Okay.
And always understand that you never know where anybody is at. So always treat them with kindness.
Exactly. Exactly. So, what did you want to grow up to be when you were 5 years old?
A lawyer. I had a briefcase and everything. Like I took my grandfather's old briefcase. It was his leather one with like the dial, lock on it, and I kept a notepad, a yellow legal notepad, and pens, and some M and M's and some dolls, obviously, in there. And I would walk around the neighborhood and offer free legal advice.
That's fantastic. At 5, I can imagine you were probably a pistol.
When I was allowed to be, yeah,
Yeah. So, and
controlled chaos.
how did you get that inspiration? Where did that come from?
I'm not really 100% sure, honestly. Like I don't even know the first time I understood what a lawyer was, but once I learned about that, I kind of hung on to it, and that was it until, oh gosh, maybe eighth, ninth grade, and things changed from there. Where I went, you know what, lawyers get a bad rap. Maybe I want to be a social worker.
So let me see. What year was Ally McBeal on? That might have
Ooh,
been.
that was the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the early 90s. So I was like little, before 5, but I
Yeah.
don't think we watched Ally McBeal in my house. We were more Law and Order people, so it might have been all the dun dun in the background.
Wink, wink. Always loved that. So now, what is your greatest accomplishment?
Oh gosh, there's so many ways I can answer that, and I try to dig deeper than the surface. Not that people saying their kids are not an accomplishment or owning a home isn't an accomplishment, but really, I think for me, it's my self acceptance, my self love. Like I've really learned to love who I am and how I am, and to live that way authentically, and to help teach other people how to be that is like such an incredible deviance from who I was even 5 years ago. So I think my greatest accomplishment is my capacity to love myself.
I really can hear you, and I really get that was not something that you arrived at simply, or even probably were all that interested in putting any energy in it sometimes. And it
Correct.
probably was very unrewarding at other times. But to get through that, there's like an eye of a needle you have to get through in order to finally get to that son of a bitch. I'm okay. You know, I can do this.
Yeah.
I don't know how, but
Yeah. I'm the adult, and that's okay, and that's enough, and I'm successful and functional to a degree, depending on the definition.
as far as other people know, right?
Right.
I think that's the most awesome answer to that question that I've heard out of 30 some people.
Aw. Really? Aw.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, it doesn't discount any of the other accomplishments that people have expressed or have actually accomplished. But for you to kind of open yourself up and basically say, um, "I was work," you know, "I was
And
work,"
I still
and
am. I'm
yeah,
not done working, because if we're done working or we're done learning, then we're dead.
well,
But
didn't
I
you go
think
from
that,
being you went from being work to being a work in progress, right?
correct.
Perfect. Perfect. And so now, who is your favorite person to listen to?
My dad. My dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. He just has a really interesting way of like talking and relating and storytelling in a way when he talks. And he sees the world differently from anybody else that I know, and the observations or connections that he makes. Sometimes he's a little rough around the edges, but it's fun to listen to him share stories of like him being a kid or his adolescence or the experiences he's had. He's also a person who I say has lived 10,000 lives. And, I'm just honored and grateful that he and I have such a relationship where he can open up to me and share things with me. And I keep telling him we have to either record it or write it down or something that it's incredible.
I think that's neat. And I love the rough around the edges because that kind of implies authenticity. Like when people are just being real, you know, you get what you get. And sometimes the best I can give you is not really all that much, but it's what I got today.
That's what he says. You get what you get and you don't get upset.
I like it. Ex- Expect nothing, and you'll always be
Never
happy.
be disappointed. Yep.
So, are there any particular topics, or are there any, or is it just being with him and hearing what he has to say about life? And you did mention his childhood, but is there anything else that you kind of like you go to him for if you're in need of a spark or in need of just a little bit of light or whatever?
I know that he'll always be a straight shooter, and he'll always give me, the truth, even when it's ugly, even when I don't want to hear it. So if there's a time that I need to be told the truth about something or someone or a situation, I know that I can go to him. And he's probably the only person to be like, I don't want to hear this, but I need to take this to dad. And I know what the answer is going to be, but I still need to hear him say it. And he'll always kind of level set me. So, we have a really, really good relationship that he can kind of call me on my stuff and kind of put me back on a good track. And he never tells me what to do or how to do it, but he kind of lets me arrive at things on my own. And it's more that just conversation. And I think sometimes he doesn't even realize that that's what he's doing. But um, so that, and then I like to listen to him. He used to be a commercial long haul truck driver. And so I like to listen to him. He'll tell me stories about his various, hauls. Like one time he hauled caskets. He worked for a casket company and he drove from Maine to Texas. And he stopped at this particular road rest stop to use the bathroom or something. And this homeless person came up to him and was like bugging him for a ride. And he had been like, nah, dude, no, dude. And then he finally got sick of him. He's like, all right, yeah, I got space for you. Come with me. And he goes around the back of the trailer and he opens up the gate. He's got 87 seats. Pick your favorite. And the guy looks at him like, ah, and then like ran off. My dad's that kind of person, or I was just like, oh, that's hysterical. Like I would have done the same thing. So I appreciate that, like, you know, cojones.
A lot of time alone to think up things to do, and I'm sure he was like laying for this poor man. Like
Yeah.
someone's going to get the benefit of my sense of humor today. I don't know who that lucky person is.
I don't even know that he like plots it. I think sometimes it just bubbles into his mind, on the spot where he just has that great ability to just capture a thought in the moment and then act on it in a really fun way.
That's pretty cool too. It's all again part of what you see is what you get, and what you get is what you get, and that's it.
Well, he's a big kid. Like he really is. He's just a big kid. So it's fun to like watch him with my kids. Or like I remember when we were younger, we went to Disney World for the first time, like watching him skip down Main Street in Disney World as, 40, 50-year-old man with a knee problem, but he still was like, I don't care. And like dad New Balance sneakers and fanny pack and all, like just took a gallivant down the street in Disney World and didn't care who saw. And He loves that stuff, and that's what I love about him is he lives unapologetically himself.
I love that. And what you brought to mind was the first time that we went to Disney with our 5-year-old and our 7-year-old, and the younger daughter, who's now 42, was 5, and she did the exact same skipping down the boulevard. We called it the Becky Boogie.
Yep. Well, my dad did the Becky Boogie, so.
So now that's really cool, and I really appreciate all of those insights. And speaking about being a kid, let's put you in that mindset again here. Please complete this sentence. When I grow up, I'd like to.
When I grow up, I would like to. Make a difference. When I grow up, I would like to make a difference.
And what would that look like?
I mean, I think for me, it's leaving a legacy, having an impact, making a change, having some sort of piece of me that lives on and inspires people or affects change in some kind of meaningful way. To have a purpose in my life while I'm alive is great, but to be grown up and then after I'm gone to continue to have purpose, I'm finding is important.
It actually gives you a great now, doesn't it? Thinking in terms of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can definitely see that in you while you're speaking.
Or be president of the universe, whichever one happens first.
Well, I thought you already had that one knocked down.
No, that's my 4-year-old.
Okay. Supreme master of time, space, and dimension.
Yeah, she really is. She just has to decide if she's going to use her powers for good or for evil.
Are you leaning in any particular, whatever seems to make the biggest difference in the world, right?
It varies from day to day with her, but she is only 4, so. She's delightfully thoughtful, but also incredibly maniacal if she wants to be. And that's a dangerous combination because there's a lot of intention and cognition around her maniacality. And I'm like, oh, that's scary.
Does she notice when she's being how she's being?
Oh, 100%. She's astutely aware of how intelligent she is, and it's a conscious choice.
Yeah, okay. I like it.
We're all in trouble.
No place to hide.
Or she'll find you.
I know, I get it. I really do. And she will never quit.
We hope that she never loses that skill.
So kind of standing on that or not, what is the most important thing in life to you right now?
Ooh. The capacity to be present, to be mindful, to practice the ability to be comfortable with the uncomfortable and the ambiguous. We as people get so caught up in needing to know what the future has in store for us and what is next or what's behind the next door or next opportunity or missed opportunities. And that's something that I found myself getting caught up in a lot. But I think on the same vein as being comfortable and loving myself, with that discovery came the discovery of the importance of just being present, experiencing the now. Not to say don't worry about the later, because you have to kind of do some planning for the later, but plan for it, but then let it go, because you can't continue to reinvent that wheel.
Yeah, I heard that eloquently said earlier today, that so many people are constantly planning about the next thing and the next thing. They almost never get, when they get to that point, they never get to enjoy the now of it because they're always thinking about what's coming next. So I really love what you're saying. The whole mindfulness and being able to embrace what's going on around, even like right this moment. The world is full of this. The world, whenever you say, I'd like to do something, you know what his first response is? Well, we'll just see about that.
Yep.
Life
is funny like that. It's like you have a plan and you think it's this linear line, but it's like, ooh. That's the
Exactly right.
technical term, in case you didn't know.
Yeah, or an approximation of that, right?
Sure, sure. You can just.
When this gets transcribed, I'm not quite exactly how that's going to be spelled, but they'll come up with something. I'm sure. So, with that being the most important thing in life, what would you like to leave in the world after your life is done? You started talking in terms of making a difference, and what in particular difference can you see that you could articulate or be very specific about? Or maybe in this moment, give yourself at least something that's a target that maybe you haven't thought about, or if you have. We're
So
all
I think right now my goal is to affect change around grief and bereavement. It's literally become my life's purpose, my life's mission, and I would like to educate people on grieving and its processes and the science behind it and the experience with it. But I would also like to change the legislation around bereavement and bereavement leave and bereavement care and death care in the United States. I think that that would be an incredible gift and legacy to leave behind.
I agree with you. And it's not something that is talked about regularly, is it?
No, and that's why I chose the work that I do and started the business that I did, was so I could do that and give that to people to foster that dialogue. You know, talking about death doesn't have to kill you. It really is a part of life and we can't avoid it. So why avoid it?
Well, a courageous thing to take on, because it's not like you just go out and you go to work. You have to teach people language first. You have to get
Yes,
inside of their understanding of what they think it is, and that it isn't, because they're not present while they're in a grief state. And all the other things that go along with it. It's not like you can hand them something, now it's all better, Here, take this
there's no
cook.
pill or blueprint or book or roadmap or anything. And grief is so personal and individualized that there's no blanket statement or script or anything that I can say. So you really have to continually reinvent the conversation every time you talk to someone new about it. And that's a challenge, but it's also a pleasure for me to get the honor of doing that work.
Well, kind of hearing it in my words, as a business and life coach, what I actually hear is the whole notion of giving people something, to kind of deal with the noise going on in their head and all the thought distortions, not thinking that they're true and real and need to be acted on or to be avoided, but they're just like the air that's going on around you and a leaf falling through the air and all the other million things that happen every moment that you don't notice, except for
Right.
some of them hook you and trigger you.
Correct. And it's how
And
do you not brace for impact and breathe through those moments and accept the inevitables and the ambiguous and the scary and the uncomfortable? How do we get comfortable being uncomfortable?
yeah, and it's all about, having it take less and less away from your day instead of spoiling your whole day or your whole week. It comes back to, maybe it's only an hour, maybe it's only a minute, maybe it's something you can learn to chuckle with afterwards about your response to whatever it was. And then for a moment, you feel cocky and you say, well, bring on the next one. And then when it comes, you go, well, I got what I wished for. So here we are.
It's like learning to swim in the ocean. You know, you get dropped in the middle of this and you have to learn how to like surf these waves without any experience. And eventually over time you learn how to tread water and ride the wave. But it's a really stiff and steep learning curve that no one can prepare you for until you experience it.
Yeah. And the alternative to getting good at it is to drown and die. And
Correct.
quite literally, some people choose to do that. They don't do anything else the rest of their lives.
They don't choose to do it, they don't choose to do anything. And that's really the success to, the key to successful grief is choosing to be open to the opportunities to experience joy.
And exactly, as opposed to having something that's either this or that. So maybe by being mindful, there's other opportunities and things that can present themselves that will buy you a piece of a cookie right now, if not a whole one.
Being present, exactly.
100%. So that's really great. And I love your take on life. I love your take on, answering these questions. And I got a baker's question for you. Do you go to a baker much?
No, not particularly, but
The
lay it
one I
on me.
go, the one I go to is really beautiful. So if I get a dozen muffins, I get a 13th one for free.
Aha, baker's
I've never,
dozen.
I've never bought. Yeah, exactly. I've never. So this is the baker's question.
Okay.
So, Kate, what is the thing that most people misunderstand about you?
Ooh, oh gosh. That my personality, I am loud and I take up a lot of space and I am excitable and like a puppy sometimes. But really that is because I have ADHD and OCD and chronic PTSD and all of those fun neurospicy things culminate into this really great personality that I just don't apologize for anymore and go, you know what? I am who I am, and this is how I am, and this is how I navigate the world. And I'm not always great at it, but I do my best and I mean well. But a lot of people take the big personality or the loudness as aggressive or bossy or too much. Or so I think, once people get to know me and they understand how my mind works and how I navigate the world, then they go, oh yeah, like, yeah, I hear so many times like, oh, I really thought you were the B word when I first met you, or oh, I thought you were like super aggressive. I'm like, a lot when I first met you, and I'm like, yeah, I know. And I try not to be, but then I run into the risk of stifling myself. And so I usually forewarn people, be like, hey, if you're going to hang out with me, just understand I take up a lot of space. So sorry ahead of time if that's a problem, but let me know. And there's the door.
Well, I'll tell you what, just for the moment, imagine a fish trying not to be a fish, right?
Unless it's called Wanda.
Exactly. I wonder if Wanda really knew her name was Wanda.
Maybe.
And that was a great movie. One of my all-time
One of my
favorites.
favorites. Yeah.
Well, maybe we have a future watching some all-time favorites together at some point. I would love that.
Love it. Double feature with Doom and a fish called Wanda.
Yeah, there you go. Absolutely. Great casts in both. I love it. So that's it for the scripted questions. Do you have any questions or anything that you'd like to say about the questions or this experience?
I love this. Like, I really think that this is an important dialogue. I'm not going to lie. You sent me the list of questions, and I was like super overwhelmed. And that ADHD neurodivergency, like, I read the first 5 questions, and I had to close the email, and then I forgot it existed because out of sight, out of mind. And then I went back and looked at it today, and then I had like not a panic attack, but a like about it. And then I, you know, was like okay with it. So here we go talking about that neurospicy. But no, like anybody else who does this, like, don't get overwhelmed by the list of questions. Just understand it's a conversation, and just the opportunity to talk about myself is new for me. Nobody really asks about me, and the opportunity to share my passion for my work. And if it's okay, I'd love to share, my website, and if we could include that, that would be great. So for people who are looking for grief and bereavement support or resources, I
By all
own
means.
On Tuesdays We Wear Black, and I can be found on www.otwwb.com or on tuesdayswewearblack.com, where I host a free educational blog and nationally accredited resources for grief and bereavement.
Well said.
Thank you.
Now, before we part, do you have any questions for me?
Ooh, what was your favorite cartoon as a kid?
My favorite cartoon as a kid. There were so many. So, being a freshman in college, and having been up all Friday night and hearing that Warner Brothers intro to that Oscar-winning Rabbit on Saturday morning,
Mm-hmm.
and never. My Siri is so beautiful. So when I was a kid, I would have to say my very favorite one was probably Deputy Dog,
Ooh, love Deputy Dog.
because they were all misfits.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't better than anybody, and they all had these really quirky personalities and really strange way of speaking, very distinctive.
Hmm.
And then probably close behind that would be all the Popeye episodes.
Oh, it's a good one.
But I really felt let down when I ate spinach.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. That's because you're eating it out of a can. You got to eat it fresh.
So thank you for asking that probing question. Now you know my deepest, darkest secrets about Popeye
The
and
real
that.
question is, do you like spinach?
Oh, I love
See?
it. I love
So
it.
you
And
gained something from Popeye then.
100%. A matter of fact, I got spinach in my refrigerator right now. I love having it on salads. Rarely, until it's starting to get a little bit long in the tooth, will I boil it. But it's usually just another green.
I like it on pizza.
Excellent spinach pizza. You put it
Yep, I'll
on.
do spinach and chicken on pizza.
Golly, we've got a future. I can see that.
So actually, because I don't eat a lot of bread, I actually take shredded chicken and I turn it into like a pizza crust. Like I have a recipe for like baked shredded chicken, and it turns that into the pizza crust. And then I'll
That's
put either like a cheese sauce or something on it, or an Alfredo sauce, and then I'll do my shredded cheese and my spinach and like bacon or something. And so you got chicken bacon pizza.
we have covered the beach in terms of topics. I love it. We've managed to get into food. You're one of my. We both have are in the same lane with regard to protein and green. So, well,
You'll get a little bit of everything with me when you talk to me. So
hey, I want to thank you for opening yourself up and spending this time. And we really did get an opportunity to experience what the world looks like while you're trying to do something. And it'll be very interesting to see how my producer enjoys what we've gotten done here today.
I enjoyed this immensely. I appreciate the opportunity for it.
Absolutely. Before we say goodbye, I just want to reach out and invite all of you, my listeners, uh, to call somebody you know, or text them, or email them, and let them know that your world works because they're in it. Let them know that you love them and that you're looking forward to seeing them again soon. With that said, anything else, Kate?
That's it.
All right, y'all. Bye bye for now.
You've been listening to Simple Questions for 100 People, part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can find every episode at exvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcast app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and wherever you find podcasts.